Welcome back to the channel where we build a video game from scratch using Love2d and Lua. Yesterday we got the basics of a AI going for our corrupted gecko, so he will track us. We do want to change this at some point, because right now he just he matches his X position with ours first, and then he'll crawl towards us. But that would make some issues if we go over here, with the collidable map objects. If he's actually colliding with the objects like he should be, then he would actually just be getting stuck and never making progress towards us. So we do have to update his AI, as well as add collision detection for collidable map objects for the gecko here. Now, we also see how he remains on screen no matter what scene we're on. So instead of populating and updating him based on the scene, we need to put him based on the map instantiation. So the scene has a reference to the current map as well as the next map if we're transitioning. So we need to put him only in the current map scene instantiation for wherever we want him to be. So if we want him to only live on this map 1-2, we need to be able to place him in a map 1-2, and when we walk off, he would essentially stay on screen over there. So I think that's what we're going to be working on today. That's gross. But if we can get that today, then we can start to implement our collision detection for map objects for our entities. So let's get going here. Let's see. First of all, let's see how we're implementing this. So let's go to where we're inserting into our .entities table. And it's going to be right here. We're inserting one gecko into the entities table. That's self.entities table in our scene. And then what we're doing is we are setting its direction to be up. We're setting its type to be equal to gecko so that we actually have an AI for the gecko type. We're going ahead and giving our entity two different state machines. So it's got an entity walk state and an entity idle state. We're then changing its state to be default idle. Okay, so instead of this being in our scene here, we want to put it in a global map declaration. So if we take a look at like how our maps are being populated right now, we have map declarations. Where are they? I don't see them. We need to, oh, right here. So look, our map 1-1 has got all this stuff. Map 1-2 has got all this stuff. This is the tiles, the tile IDs to render for our current map. And then we're also giving our map a .animatables. Now, one thing we want to also do is give every map here a .entities, right? So we're going to set a .entities table equal to an empty table for every one of our map width and height. So we've got a 10 by 10 map width right now. So we're just going to go ahead and give us an entities table in every one of those maps so that each map has its own reference of entities, which right now is just going to be geckos. We don't have any other entities other than we've got a normal gecko and we've got a corrupted gecko, but we're going to just be placing a corrupted gecko because a corrupted gecko, once cleansed by our spell casting, is going to turn into a normal gecko and then run off screen. So let's see here. This .entities table here that is now residing in our map, our global map declarations, is going to be the equivalent of our self.entities in our init for our scene. So if we go to our scene and we look up at this .entities table, that is now moved into the map itself. So what we need to do is we need to change our .entities field in the current map I don't know if we want to... I don't know if we declare this stuff in our map declarations. That's kind of making sense to me, but let's continue on. Let's see if we use any of these local variables here, like any of this stuff, for our entity, because we would need to move this if that's the case. So let's go ahead and see. Now we've got an entity instantiation right here. We're inserting, and I'm just going to comment this out. We're inserting a table. We're inserting into our self.entities table an entity instantiation. We're giving it a correct animation for a corrupted gecko. We're giving it a start X and Y position, setting its width and height, changing its direction to be up, setting its type to be gecko, giving it the state machines, changing its state machine to be in idle. So I'm going to go ahead and comment that out. Now we don't need any of this. We won't need any of this stuff. We'll probably end up deleting all that by today, but let's go ahead and yank all this stuff. This is the kind of blueprint to get one gecko working, but we need to ultimately be able to populate as many geckos as we want from our map declarations table. So ideally we would say, you know, we've got an entity table inside each map, but we would want to go ahead and then declare a little more specifically what entities are going to be in what map. But for right now, I think I want to do this before we actually declare all our maps, because if we do this before we declare all our maps, then actually we've got to do it after we give ourselves all of this, because what this is doing is giving us an empty table in every map row, and then this is giving a table in every map column. That's how we're saving all the tile IDs for all the sprites. So we're going to be, in addition to giving us an empty table, we're gonna go into a field in that table, set its animatables to be equal to an empty table, and set its entities to be equal to an empty table. Yo, K-Tronics, what's up, dude? How's it going? I hope you're having a good day. So yeah, I think this is a good idea here, because it's like we want to be able to say, like, hey, maybe you know, map 1-2 is the only one that gets a gecko, whereas if we spawn at 1-1, we don't want a gecko there. Now we are crashing here on scene 185, and that's probably because we're trying to render an entity that doesn't exist, or update an entity that doesn't exist. So we need to go take that out of here. Now we need to go find anytime we are updating an entity just like this, and we'll take it out of our scene update. And then we need to take out any render we might have for the entities as well out of our scene. Now, I think at the end of the day, we will be adding an entity render into our scene here, but for right now, we just want to make sure that our entities are being populated outside of the scene so that we only have access to the current map's entities as opposed to the entity that's over the scene. Yeah, man. Hey, good to see you here. I hope you had a good weekend. I'm in the realm of like, I don't want to, I'm tired, but I don't want to go to sleep, because when I go to sleep, the weekend's over and then I got to go back to work. So I'm like not wanting to get back to work, but that's okay. Scene 185. Nice, dude. That is good news. Yeah, my classes are going to be starting up here actually tomorrow. I get my pre-work for my classes tomorrow, and then my boot camp starts on April 15th, and it lasts 10 weeks full time. So I'll be leaving my work for 10 weeks while I go take that boot camp. So it's gonna be a lot of work. I'm gonna still try to stream every day, hopefully, if I can. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. 185. Okay, okay. Oi, yeah, we need to, each entity. I feel like we need to add the particle system to our entity as well, because we don't want, like right here, we're setting the P system for one entity, one gecko instantiation. We're setting all that stuff here in the scene update function, which is just not the place we want to do it. We don't want to be bogging down our scene update function with all the gecko stuff. So right now, we took out our gecko instantiation and we don't have him here anymore. We want to place him into the entity table for our map, and then we'll be updating our entity in our map, rendering our entity in our map, and then our scene renders our map. So I think we'll be able to pull this off. We want to make sure that we go to, let's see, in our map declarations, we've got an empty table for the entities here. And then I want to say we can even do it like right here after we declare our sprite sheet for the map. This might be where we want to declare all the entities for the given map. But what's weird too is that this isn't a class or anything. This is just a file that our main is requiring. So I'm not entirely sure if we can populate our entities here. Let me go back to our scene and we'll snag all of our entity update here, or our init rather, for our gecko. So we'll snag this. And then we'll go back to our map declarations and we'll set a local entities to be equal to, let's just give it 1 for now. We'll test if it's scalable. But we're gonna say for I gets 1, comma, our total entities, do an insertion of the table into our .entities table. So we'll be placing this into our for loop. And what we also need to do is not hard code in this number 1, but rather an I. Okay. Okay, and then we don't want to be inserting into a table called self entities. We want to be inserting into a table of the entities of our current map here, which in this case is 1, 2. Map 1, 2. So we're inserting into that empty entities table that we've made up here. We've got this empty entities table for every map. And then we're going to say map 1, 2 actually gets an instantiation of an entity class. And that class has a gecko corruption animation. It has an X and a Y. It has a direction, has a type, has 2 state machines that we want to replace the ones with I's here to make it scalable in our for loop. And then we're going to change the state to be an entity idle. And entity idle, if we go to the update of entity idle, it's just going to wait a certain amount of seconds before it changes to entity walk state. And it picks a random direction and walks that way. So if our global map object 1, 2 now has a .entity field with an instantiation of every entity in that we give it on our map declarations table, then in our map class, we should be able to do two things, which is update our entity's state as well as render any entity that is in our map. So our map class doesn't have a setting for which map is what, but we just want to update the current map's entities and render the current map's entities. So I believe in our map, we don't have a current map, so it's just that our scene can hold a reference to two maps at a time, a current map and a next map upon a scene transition. So I think if our map instantiation now has a .entities file, we see, and it's like we don't want to add our .entities into our init here in our map class, because each map of our 100 might have different entities. So it's kind of nice to be able to say in our map declarations, hey, this map 1.2 only has one gecko, and it's a corrupted gecko, changed to idle state. I think that's okay. It's just that we don't have access. Yeah, we might need to do something like, we might need a self.entities function or something. Self.entities or entity amount gets to be equal to the map at the row and column. So in this case, oh gosh. I cannot spell today. Map.column.entities, but we want a number here, hash, to get the number of value of entities that are in our table here, and we're saving that into an entity amount field of our current map, so that we can go ahead and update only an entity amount of entities in said table up here. And then only render that many entities as well. I'm kind of curious if, yeah, let's see, map declaration 66. Okay, I wasn't expecting us to crash here. Entity depths is a nil value, and that sounds like we need to define our entity before we require our map, and that might be in our dependencies. So if we look at our map declarations, it is actually after our entity, but is it after our entity defs? It is not. So we need to put our entity defs before our map declaration so that we have access to it by the time we get to that. And it's still an issue. Table expected got nil on map declarations 65. So we'll go check out 65. And our entities table is, we should have, oh god, okay, so it's bad argument 1, which means the table is incorrect, but we have it. I thought I'd be able to do this. Maybe not. Table expected got nil, so that means that the argument 1 is actually nil here. So why is our map 1.2.entities table a nil value? It should actually be an empty table, not nil. We have entities here, as long as we are spelling it right? Entities dot entities. Okay. I don't know. Why is that nil? That shouldn't be nil. Yeah, we're good. We're good. We'll figure it out. Only thing I'm thinking of is this. It's almost like we might need to, because the maybe I don't know. Let me just try something here. I think if we move this table to after our map declarations, and then we also move this after our entity declarations, or after our empty table entity instantiation. Let's see if it crashes. It still does at 118. It's a different line though. It's a different line. Okay. A sensation. Yep, we are in NeoVim. So I'm curious if we define, if we look at what our map objects are, it is just an empty table at each index and row. But then when we go and try to add an entity into that table as well, it wasn't letting us do it because our .entity field, I think, was maybe overriding whatever information was in this table. But I really don't know what to do different. Because we're giving our each map a .animatables table. That's how we're able to insert animations into the maps. So I would think that we would be able to add a .entities table to also add any entities in the map. But when we go and run this, we crash at 36 trying to index self a nil value, which is right here. Okay, that's weird. Let's check our entity class and make sure it's got a .direction. Pretty sure it does. It doesn't. Okay, so our entity needs a .direction. Oh, it does right here. So yeah, why are we indexing a nil value? Index global self a nil value. If we hard code in a 1 there, does it crash at 36 still? So, oh, self. Okay, my bad. Yep, that's wrong. get the length of the field entities, which is a nil value. I would think that once we populate it here, oh, it's for every map. Does that not return 0 if the table is empty? Because we're giving it an empty table. We're only populating one map for now. Oh my god. Insert animation 8. Jesus Christ. Oh lordy. So for some reason, putting an entity table into our map is ruining our animatables table. Table insert. Table expected got nil. Argument 1 on 8. So this first argument of map 1 animatables is not populating right. But if we go to our map declarations, we are still giving our animatables an empty table up here. Yep. I don't know why. Why would putting our entities in here cause our animatables to cease working? Why? Why? I'm confused. I don't know why the little things we've tried to do is screws up our animatables table of our global map declarations. I don't know why. It's frustrating. Actually, I think I can just get stash. Try this again. Okay, so if we just wanted to insert not only a .animatables, but we wanted to insert a entities table that is equal to an empty table. Can we do that without crashing? Yeah, we can. Let's go to our dependencies and we'll switch our entity defs. Make sure that is before our map declarations. Let's see. We should not be crashing. Okay. So now let's see if we can go to our scene. We want to take out every instance of entities. At least for our gecko here. So we're going to go in here, take out this block. Oh god, come on. Okay, so we take out the init for our entities, and then we need to take out the update for our entity. Okay. Then we need to take out the render for our entity, and then it'll be gone, and we just need to move it to our map class. As well as our particle system, though, for our entity. So make sure we also take that out, which is where? In our scene update, our particle system needs to also move. Okay. Okay, let's see if we crash. We're okay, so we don't crash. Our entity is not in our scene any longer, so let's go ahead and take our init and try to insert that entity object into the .entity field of our global map declaration here for our 1-2 map. Let's see. We'll do it here after we've given us a table. That's spelled wrong. Okay. So we're gonna go into our map 1-2. Well, it's actually, that's the table we want to insert it into. We need a local local entities gets 1. We're going to say for I gets 1, comma, up to our entities. We're going to go ahead and paste we want to go into not our self entities, but our map at index 1-2 entities. Then not our self entities, but our self replaced with map 1-2 dot entities. And then any one here is actually going to be an I. Okay, let's see. This is where I thought we were before we stashed all our changes. Now we aren't crashing now, so that's good. So now that we've got our entity in our entities table for our map, I think what we need to do is go to our map and do the update for every entity that's in there. So I don't know if we're able to put entity count gets the number of whatever map at our row and column is at our dot entities table. Let's see if we crash here. Okay. Okay, so far so good. So we're saving an entity count for our map object, and that is the number of entities that we inserted from our global map declarations. So now we have an idea of how many things to update and to render. So we'll go ahead and say for I gets 1, comma, self.entity count. We're going to go ahead and update all the entities. How we do that is, let's take a look at our scene here. And we'll see, here is our init. And then we got to go to our update. That's our particle system update. Here is our entity update. Then all we got to do is process the AI for it and then update the positions. So let's go find, where were we? In our map. Okay, so instead of that, we're going to say, okay, local entity gets not self entity, but map at self.row. Is that right? Map at self.row. We have a self.row, self.column. Yep. So self.row. And then say self.column. And then that field's entities at the ith location. That's right. And then if the entity is not off screen, go ahead, process its AI, update, and then that should be updating it. Map 76, we fucked up. What did we do here? We missed an end. We've got too many ends here for whatever reason. Oh god. Map 49, entities is a nil value. Yeah, it's not self.entities. It is map at self.row, self.column, .entities, .offscreen. See there? Okay, cool. So we're updating. Well, entity walk state. What the fuck? Never seen that before. Entity walk state, attempt to index local Tashio a nil value, huh? Entity walk state 51. Tashio X, our player, what the fuck? How are we crashing there? What does that have to do with anything here? What? Entity walk state. Process AI is crashing. That doesn't make no sense to me. Why after a certain amount of time? What? What? Dude, what? Let me just see if we take this out, if we still crash and we walk around like that. Okay, so why would updating our entity? Oh, well, no, we're saving our entity at. Okay, so I think what we're doing, we're actually putting in our player into our entities table somewhere. Yeah, we don't have... No. I don't get why that would happen. Are we must be putting in... Let's take a look at where we instantiate our player. See, we aren't putting it into an entity table. We just have it as a self.object in our scene. So it doesn't make sense to me that we'd crash only updating the entities, because our .entities is reserved for our corrupted geckos at the moment. So let's see here. Maybe this self is what's screwing us up. This process AI is running on the actual scene. So maybe we have to pass in the actual scene in our map. Because when we say self here, it doesn't know what that is. Well, it's actually the wrong thing. And then our self.player doesn't have... It's not our self.player, it's our scene view.player. Let's see if we crash now. Now it is weird because we're trying to... Okay, so that's past the 5-second window. So we aren't crashing, so that might be okay. It's just that I don't know if we want our scene to be global. It kind of makes sense that scene would be global, I don't know. But we are updating every entity. At least we're trying to, of our current map. So like we're only ever updating our current map, and we only init our next map upon a scene transition. So we are only ever updating our current entities for the current map we're on. So I think that's okay. And then we want to go take a look at our scene. Our last step is to see, and this is tough too, because we've got to make sure each entity has its own particle system that is tracking to its location. So in our update, we need to update the particle system for each entity, and this needs to be like a local particle system. We've got it up here, not really as a local particle. Well, okay, we do. But let's put... This needs to be in our map. So we need to go to map. Let's take this out of scene. Now, that shouldn't crash us. Cool, so let's go to our map. And we'll place these local... We don't want it in our map per se. Well, I guess we might want it here. We've got a local particle system, particle map. It's just that our particle system needs to be local to each entity. So I think we might need to do this for each entity update. We don't want to do it for every update though. Shit. I think we need to split it. I think it's fine to have a local particle, but our particle system needs to be local to each entity. So whenever we're going here, we set a local particle system for each entity using that particle, and then we need to snag our particle update logic, which is right here. Okay, all this stuff. So if we go back here before we process our AI entity, I guess we would go ahead and move the particle system. Then we would update our entity. And then let's go ahead and see if we can render every entity in our self.entities for our map, and then we'll see how successful we are. So we've got here, we are drawing. Okay, see, this is jacked because we want to draw. Oh yeah, this is jacked. Right here, we're just drawing an actual particle system, but each particle system is local to each entity. So it's almost like we need to save it in an entity's field so that we can go ahead and render that. Because if we just try to do this, and we go into our map, and we go into our render, after we render our stuff here, oh lordy. Yeah, we do not want to do this. We don't have a particle system that we have access to. It would just crash because it's not global. Let's see. Our entity has to have a reference to this particle system. Then we update our particle system in the entity. I think that's right. So instead of this map update, instead of all this particle system update, I think we want to defer this into our entity update. So we'll go ahead and say blah, 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 update our particle system, but we don't want to update our particle system. We want to actually go and we want to have a particle here, not from our scene, and it's from top of our map. We should have a particle. We're going to take that out. We're going to go back to our entity. Now we've got a local particle for our entity. Then we need a self.p system here in our entity class. So we'll go ahead and say I believe it's here in our map. We've got oh, and you know what? We've got a self-p systems already. We've got a self-p systems for our spellcast entities, but I think we need this. This needs to be different. Because we don't need multiple particle systems per gecko entity. We needed multiple particle systems for our spellcast because we can have up to 5 at a time, but yeah, let me see. I think we want to be able to put I just lost my train of thought. I think we need our particle systems in our entity. I don't think we want it here in our map. I think we want it in our entity. And we've got particle. Okay, so that's okay. Then we would need a particle system. Okay, so let's go check our map and snag all of our particle system update logic. Now this is for our yeah, we don't want our particle system declared here in our map. We want it declared here in our entity. So let's say we have one corrupted gecko. That corrupted gecko has a .p system that is this particle system. Then in our update function, we are going ahead and we don't want to do this. We want to move, I think we want this to be self.x and self.y. This stuff seems fine, and we don't want to update this particle system like this. We want to replace this with a self.p system. Okay. And then, just curious if this even runs. New particle system, texture expected, got nil on map 9, bad argument, so we'll go to 9. Particle is, why? We've got it up here. I mean, do you want it here? New particle system, texture expected, got nil. So the only thing I could think of is that we're requiring our graphics. Well, why? Texture expected got nil. How, dude? We're manually saving it here. Particle. What? You want this to be global? I mean, now you're a different one. Map 101. Oh God. What? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, bye. Okay. What does it say? What does it say? Bad argument 1 to pairs, table expected on map 102. So we'll go to map 102, bad argument expected. Tables, okay, so our dot entities. Okay, I mean we've got our gecko entity going. It's our particle system isn't rendering, and we're hard coding this. We want to put this at self.row, self.column. Okay, so that should be rendering our entities, which we're getting our entity, but we are not rendering our particle system within our entity. So we need to make sure that this is rendering our particle system. Now we're updating our particle system. Are we not? What's our update? We are updating our particle system in our update. We just need to render the particle system. So let's go to our map where we moved our render for our particle system, which is right here. Nope. Is it our old stuff? No, we were doing it. So this is what we need to add into our entity class, except instead of rendering it at psystem, it's actually a self.psystem. Go ahead, render it at the entity's location. Okay, so we just need to change the render order. It is moving with it. That's good. Oh shit, and then our entity is rendering it for us as well. So we only want to do that if that is a type of gecko, because this is drawing and making a particle system for our player, which we don't want to do that. We don't even want to update. Yeah, we don't even want to update a particle system for our player, because we are not an entity that leaks out particles. Okay, so let's change the render order, at least in our map. And we're gonna render our entity, and then it's actually not in our map, it's in our entity. We just want to render the particle system before we render our character, so that our entity is on top of our particle system, just like that. But our player has a particle system as well, which we don't want. So how do we say only give us a particle system if we're only of type gecko or whatever we want? Well, in our update, we would only want to do this if our self.type. Now we should have a self.type, is that correct? Yeah, we've got a self.type in the init, so I think if we think we would want to do this for self.type is equal to gecko. Now, I want to say that this is gecko C for corrupted gecko. And I want to say that we do this. We only want to update a particle system if we're a entity that has a particle system that we want to render. So we are no longer, okay, so this is a type. Where do we set the type for our gecko here? Let's see, dot type, let's see, not that, dot type. Now we've got type gecko, type gecko. Okay, so this is in our, okay, yep, this is in our map declaration. It's a type gecko, not gecko C, so let's go take that out. Then we're rendering a particle system for the gecko. We're not rendering one for us, so that's good. Now the question is, if we walk off screen here, hopefully the gecko stays on the map and doesn't come with us. So let's see if that's the case. Nice. And if we go up, it should be back in its normal position. And if we saw him, we see him here. And I don't know why we see him once we transition. And we don't see him until we're done transitioning. So this is jacked. It's fine here, like when he's not here. It's just that when we go on, if it's the current map, we're rendering the entities. That's jacked. That's jacked. And it looks like he's keeping his same position. It looks like he doesn't reset position. It looks like he kind of just remembers where he was on screen. I mean, this is close. This is really close. It's just he's not on the screen when we render. Oy, okay. I don't know what to do. I don't know. Why would we be rendering him on the current map? Let's see what happens when we do a begin transition and see. It's actually called begin shifting. Now we need to see where this function is doing stuff. Begin shifting. So this is all the stuff we're doing when we begin shifting. Okay. I don't see where in this we would be rendering the freaking gecko. We need to take a real long look at our code here sometime soon and add comments to what the stuff is doing, because it's starting to be the point where I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. If we can get our gecko to be, I want our gecko to kind of reinstantiate at its old location, as opposed to whatever location it's kind of like he's about to touch me, I walk off. Now if I go back, I want him to be in the middle, not where he just walked up from, which it keeps his last position as opposed to resetting his original positions. So how do we go about and reset that, as well as get him rendering on the next map before we're done with the transition? I don't know what to do there. Maybe in the map, let's take a look at how we're doing our character versus our We're not rendering our character in our map. Now we are rendering our spellcast entity system here in our map, and that works fine. It is very tough to try to I don't get why he's disappearing. Let's take a look at so this renders each of okay. So here we're rendering only the entity of our no. So our scene has a reference to a current map, which is the map we're on, and then sometimes it has a reference to the current map as well as the next map, which once we begin a transition, then we have a next map, and the next map scrolls to overtake our current map, and then our next map becomes our current map, and we have no next map until we begin another transition. So right here, we're rendering our entity for... We want to do this only for our current map, I think, but maybe we do this in our scene and we do it for only the current map. No, because we want to render the next map entities as they scroll on. So this is only rendering the map's current entities, and then we're rendering both the current map and a next map if we transition. So why are they disappearing? And maybe, let me see if we can say, I don't know, we take this out. Let's see if that changes anything for the render for him. So that works fine. It's just that when we go up, he's gone until we're done transitioning. So why does that happen? Why does beginning a transition put him in the current map instead of the next map? Okay, so maybe we need to set... Oh, shit, I don't know. So in our map, we're rendering the entity that is in our current map row's entities. So when we move down, that current map doesn't have any entities, so it's not going to render any entities. Yet when we begin a transition, it does render the next map's entity on the current map, which is wrong. Want to render this entity. Part of me thinks we take this out of the map and move it into the scene, at least the render for the entity. We used to have it here, and it used to be right here. But if we put, okay, for the pairs of our, and we can say not here, but our self.current map dot entities, go ahead and render that entity. But we do need a reference to this entity, which, no, that's okay. Let's see if that changes anything. Yeah, okay. Self dot current map dot entities. Self dot current map dot entities. Okay. We've got a map. Oh, lordy. Okay, so we have a current map, which is a map object at the map row. So why can't we say... This is confusing to me because our map... Oh, well, shit. Okay, well, let's try to do this at our map row, map column instead of this. Okay, so far so good, and it renders... Oh, lordy. Okay, I mean, yeah, this is jacked. Okay. Okay, so let's just walk through this again, and let's see why he's only rendering... Okay, now he's gone. We gotta put him back. I gotta render... Okay, let's go. We're gonna render every entity at our self dot what? Self dot row and column. Okay, that worked fine. Like, that looked great. It's just that when we walk back, he appears on our current map instead of our next map. So how do we get our entity... Well, he's rendering at our current map instead of our next map. I don't get why he's doing that. Because the entity should belong to the entity field of the next map when we're on the bottom there, transitioning up. It doesn't make sense to me that he's getting a position. Maybe we just, if we're transitioning, we need to offset all the entities. I don't know how to decide whether or not he's actually... Because, like, that's fine. It's just that when we walk back up, he should reset his position. That's so jacked. Like, he is in the right position on the wrong screen, at least. Because if we wait till he walks us all the way down here, and he's at the bottom of the screen, He'll be at the bottom of the screen when we transition, which is, yeah, he does do that. So that's incorrect. And then if we have him up towards the top of the screen, then he'll be at the top of the screen when we transition back, which he is. Okay, so it's almost like we need to just change where we render the entities. See, and I don't get, because he's on the current map. It's just that our entities, let's see where we're rendering the entities on a scene transition. I don't know where that makes any sense. Let's see if we begin transition. It is called begin shifting. Now we have it here. We set our current map, collidable objects, to be an empty table. We set our next map to be an offset adjacent. We go ahead and update. Oh. Well, this is kind of interesting because we might need to shift. Yeah, we might need to shift. Okay. Because we are shifting, we gotta tween the values. Okay. Okay, so I think what's happening is once we begin transitioning, it knows that there is an entity in the next map, and it goes to render the next map. It's just that the entity's X position in the next map is actually, let's say, the middle of the screen, and then once we transition, as it's scrolling, it moves us down, so we should need to tween its values to keep it stationary. Now, that doesn't fix the problem where we need to kind of reset its position every time we come across that map. Like, we need to reset the X location of our entity upon a finished transition, but we need to tween our values for each entity. Now, if this is in our scene, we need to go into our current map. And it's not current map, it's actually our global map at our self.map row, and then self.map column. And we need to go into the entities field of that. And we need to tween. Okay, so here's the thing where we need to set that position, and we can say that position of our map at our self.map row, self.map column, index k gets, now it's a index, it's actually a entities at index k, I think. And then we're setting that X position to be, let's just see if we set that. Let's just see like what it renders when we do that weird shit. So yeah, it tweaked him. It tweaked him. See, and what's weird is it scrolls off fine, so, oh shit, man. I'm stumped. Because he scrolls off fine. Oh, great. He scrolls off fine, he just doesn't scroll on fine. What is going on with focus right now? Okay. I'm stumped. Because he scrolls off fine. And that's upon a beginning shifting. That's so jacked. Maybe we just work on resetting his position, and then we worry about drawing him at the correct location. So let's go ahead and... What does it mean to reset his position? Well, we need to reset the default settings of our original map declaration. We need to reload the original definition upon a begin shifting. Yeah. That's difficult. I am stumped. Because this is different. This is different than what we've been doing for our other stuff, right? Like when our player goes off screen, instead of our player moving with the current map, we're moving our player to its new location. But we just need to scroll our entity off or on, depending on its location. So I guess we might need to render. I think we might need to render our entity not at our entity's X location, but our entity's X location shifted by the map offset X and map offset Y, because those things change upon a shifting. So if we take a look, at our map, we're rendering our tile sheet at a map offset X and a map, or it's called adjacent offset X and adjacent offset Y. So I wonder if we just render, motherfucker, because render, okay. So if we go into our entity and then actually in our entity render, but then our fucking shit. Yeah, we're already rendering it based on our adjacent offset X and Y. We are already doing that. That's why he scrolls off. So how come we can't scroll him on when we're rendering our next map? Let's take a look at our play state. I want to see when we're rendering our next map. Oh, come on, dude, come on. Oh, shit. Okay. So what we're doing here for our next map is we're changing our adjacent offset X of our next map to be Shift Y and Shift X. So I think we might want to change our geckos. Oh, that's not right. What's so confusing is that it renders off fine, which means if we shift our beginning transition logic at all, it's either gonna, fix its end position and mess up its beginning position. I don't fucking know. I don't know. Like, if we want to say that our gecko, which is in our current map, we'll say our self.currentMap.entities let's just do the one for now. We're going to say it's X. Actually, we're going to say it's adjacent offset X. It's going to get this shift X. And then we go ahead and we say it also gets an adjacent offset Y of a shift Y. Let's see what that does to our render for our gecko. Now we render off and it's jacked because we don't have this. Motherfucker. We need to import our entities. We need to import our entities from the global map table into the actual instantiation of our current map, which we aren't doing. But it's because our map, we can't have a current map here. It's like we have to put into our scene, we have to say current entities or something. It's like, what if we had a current entities and we're setting it equal to B, and we've got to just take it as a table, and then we want a table.insert into that table current entities, and the value is the whole table of our map at our map row and map column dot entities. So we're taking all those entities over so that we can actually reference it in our map itself, or in our scene itself. This is wrong. This is wrong too, because we want to put this into the current map. So we want to say map. We want to say self dot current map gets current map dot entities. Current map dot current entities. Jesus Christ. And then we want to insert the global table that we define them in, and then our current entities need to be a part of our map class and not here. So we'll just put right there current entities. Let's see if we crash here. Okay, we no longer crash there. Now let's see what we render with the shift X and shift Y. And we crash at 117 on scene. Yeah, we're crashing here because our current map doesn't have an entities table. It should. It should. See, that's fine. It's just that it's jacked when we come back. It's tricky, man. Now it's a little jacked that we tried all that stuff and nothing's working, because now I don't know what to come in and take out, because I added a bunch of random shit in random files and it wasn't working. So now it's just going to be in there whether or not it, doesn't even work. So let's go to our map and make sure our current entities isn't there. I'm going to go to our scene and make sure we're not referencing any current entities or whatever. So what's weird is, like, we're able to get everything else rendering. Like, we've got our well, I guess we only really have our map declaration stuff rendering in there. Let's take a look closer at how we render a new map, a next map, when we begin a transition. So if we look in our scene, we're rendering both a current map and a next map if we're shifting. If we have a next map, we're rendering our next map, but our next map is assigned here, next map, and we assign it. It is literally the index of, it is a map instantiation of the next map. And then we run the begin shifting function, which begin shifting. And what we're doing in the begin shifting function is taking the next map's adjacent offset, setting it equal to a shift X and shift Y. So this is what we're missing, you know, to get ours rendering correctly. And I think if we take a look at our map, we're rendering, oops. If we take a look at our next map here, yeah, we're rendering it based on the adjacent X, the adjacent offset X. And we set that adjacent offset X upon what? Not in our map, but in our scene, I guess. Yeah, that becomes this shift X and shift Y. And then we slowly So it has to do with this shift X and shift Y, I know that much. It's just that what's so confusing to me is that it renders off fine. It renders the current map off fine. It's just it doesn't render the next map on fine. So it has to do with this, I'm pretty sure. So this isn't the end of this function because we go down here and we actually tween our location for our player to be this new value. But we only want to... It's like the current map entities are fine. Current map entities are fine. We just need to render the next map entities. Which we aren't doing at all. But what's really weird is that our next map entity becomes our current map entity. At least if it doesn't do that, we're not rendering. I don't know why it would be doing that. God damn it. Okay. I don't know what the move is. Because he renders off fine. Like he'll scroll off fine, although we need to stop updating him if we're shifting. But he appears on our current map instead of our next map, and then he just appears in the correct location. So I don't know if at this instant, if he is the instant we transition and he appears down there, I don't know if that means he's actually an entity in our current map or in our next map. Because that's really confusing to me. I guess the least we can do is switch so that he doesn't update if we're shifting. So whenever we go to our entity update, we can at least stop updating him if we're shifting, and it's not in the scene. I think it's in the map, maybe. Yeah, we're rendering, but we don't want to update. Oh gosh, yeah, it would be... So we don't want to update him if we are transitioning. So we're going to say if not scene view shifting. This should at least get us to not be crawling when we're transitioning scenes. Let's see. Yeah, so he pauses the crawl. It's just that he doesn't reset positions and he doesn't render properly from the next scene. God damn it, we're close. We're close. I want him to reset. I want him to reset, which makes me think we might need like a function to reset him. Oh man. I don't know how to reset him. So we take a look at our map declarations. This is only ever initting this once, I think. But it is not a reset position. So maybe we can put into... Oh God, I don't know. We can make a function that's called reset entity position. And then possibly set all of this stuff as a reset position. It'd have to be apparent or according to the map. And then we would want to store, how would we store this function? If we store this function, like let's literally just say that we have a function called test. And we say do something, which is local x gets x plus 1. Then can we call this test function in a map or something? Can we say test? And would that run? It doesn't have access to global x. So, I mean, it is crashing right there because it doesn't know what x is on map declarations 108. But why is it 108 local x gets... I don't know, dude. Why do you care? Why do you care? Okay. So we can call that test function outside. So what if we have a function called reset entities, and it takes in a row and a column, and then this. We wouldn't want to do this. We want separate functions. Shit, man. Reset entities for 1, 2. Can we do that? Can we do that? This is getting nasty. But we're gonna put this in here. We've got a global function called reset entities for 1, 2, which resets entities for map 1, 2. And then maybe we can say, not in our scene, it's like upon a begin transition, we'd want to reset its position, I think. Fuck, it's tough, it's so tough. We're gonna have to do another day of this, trying to figure this out, because it is not gonna be figured out tonight. If we have that function that's like a reset function, then we need to run it upon, like, for now, as awful as this is, let's say finish shifting, and right before we finish shifting, let's go ahead and run that stupid function. And it is just called reset entities. And then let's just see if that resets map. Okay, why? What's going on? You hate me on map 56. And it's gone. We're jacked. We're jacked. You know, I'm tempted to not even commit any of this because it's not worth it. It's all broken still, so let's take a look at our get diff and see if anything is useful. Well, yeah, moving our particle system was good. Yeah, let's get it back. Let's just take out wherever we do some stupid bullshit with oh god, dude. Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's bad. I don't know what we want to take out. I guess we want to leave our... Yeah, let's take out our reset entities function. And see where we're at. So we do, at least we have our gecko in our map now instead of our scene, which means he renders off. It's just that when he renders on, he's not in the right location and he doesn't render in the right location upon a scene transition. So how would we... That is so weird, because he stops updating on the current... It's like we need to be rendering... it's so confusing to me that he renders... Like, I would feel so much better about it if he never appeared on the scene before we finish transitioning, but he does appear on the scene as soon as we begin transitioning, and that makes me way more confused. I don't know why he's doing that. So, like, maybe there's a thing... it's that when we're transitioning, we're rendering our current scene and our next scene, and for some reason, that entity is becoming, see, and I want to be able to tell if he's in our scene, in our current scene, or in our next scene, and just rendered at the wrong place. So that's a really tough thing to try to figure out. I mean, it's not a complete failure today. It's just that I know tomorrow is going to be the same kind of toughness. So, you know, we just got to deal with that and hopefully figure it out tomorrow. I mean, this is kind of gross where we're declaring which entities to insert for the whole game right off the bat. I don't know if I like that, but I guess I don't really know what makes more sense either. And I don't know how to tell which gecko, if it's on a current scene or a next scene. I don't fucking know how to tell the difference. So I guess let me see when we render. If we go in our map and we render our entity, it's not here. Yeah, it's right there. Why couldn't you do that? So we're rendering the entity in the scene. Okay, so maybe we only do this. We only do this if our if not entity off screen, and not scene view dot next map. If there's not a next map, render our gecko. This I would hope that this would get him to not appear on the wrong scene. Yeah, until we get here. So that's at least, it doesn't render him off because there's a next map. Okay. This is getting close though, like, because the thing is, we're rendering him, and we should be rendering him. We should be rendering him upon a begin transition, so it's like, this is fine. He renders off fine. And we should be rendering him right here when we begin this transition. But there's two problems. If we tween his value so that he's actually, if we tween that value of the one that's scrolling off onto the current location of where he's going to end up, then we will actually tween his value when we walk off as well, because that's the same thing. It's a begin transition. So it's like we want to leave him alone when we're transitioning off, but we want to tween him when we're coming back on. I don't know how to do that. Oh yeah, okay. Because I don't actually understand what's happening right now. If I knew why we're rendering a gecko in the current map location, it's so strange to me. Because he renders off to the left, but he renders on to the right, so he's moving to the left when we transition out, and he's moving to the right when we transition in. Now we're not updating him yet. I guess I'm confused at why he's scrolling off the screen. I mean, he's part of the map, so he would scroll off. So how come he's not scrolling on correct? Because we're rendering the entities of the current row. Yeah, why? And you would think that Might need to move. No. So like our entity is being rendered by an adjacent offset x, which is part of our entity render function. So maybe we just need to pass in our map, we pass in here our self.adjacent offset x and self.adjacent offset y. Come on, man. There we go. Let's see that. I would think it would screw up the walking off screen. Oh, he's fine. Oh my god. It's there. It's there. We're just not rendering our particle system, as it were. And we're not resetting its position, but he's there. So it's weird. Maybe we pause our particle system update upon a transition. So like we only do this. We are pausing it. If we're not shifting, update it. But we are not rendering our particle system. Now our entity, our particle system's part of our entity, right? So it's like, no, it isn't. Yeah, it is. It's right here. Okay, so what if we draw our particle system based on this adjacent offset x as well? Okay, this might be it. Let's see. So he's got the particle system. He's chasing us. We walk off. Particle system and him scrolls off. And particle system, okay, this is great. This is great. Okay, so I guess we have to make like a decision, right? Where if we want to, I don't know if we want it to be like Link's Awakening, where if he's chasing us like this and we walk off, if we scroll back on, he's back at his neutral position, unaggroed. I don't know if we want to keep the aggro or not. I mean, it kind of doesn't make sense that he would be, well, I don't know. It's just something we gotta come up with, I guess. But we got him scrolling off. We got him scrolling on. That's good. That's good. So let's go. We'll add to our notes. We want to see about how to reset entities to default locations, and then upon a scene change, right? I can't believe we figured that out right now, because like I was about to give up and we just eked it out. The next thing too, I want to look up stenciling or log cabin, because right now if we walk into the log cabin, check this out, we see you know, we can, this is a collidable object, so we can't walk into it, but the doorway we can actually fit. It's just that we are rendering over the doorway. We want the doorway to render over us. So I need to figure out how to stencil a doorway like that so that we can walk in here and then ultimately transition into another scene. But I'll look up a little tutorial on how to do that on Love2d, and maybe we'll do that here soon, because I think it'll add a lot. And then we can kind of take a break from entities for a second, because I'm getting a little fried on the entity stuff. And maybe we can build out a little indoor tavern inside this log cabin here. Once we get our stenciling right, then we can kind of shift over and make a new location, and we can add in a potential NPC and then start working on like a text system for our NPCs to talk random stuff and give you an adventure or tips or whatever. So it's coming along. Today was rough, but we got what we wanted to do done, which is great. We'll still have to update, you know, we need to add collision detection for our corrupted gecko so that he can't walk over everything. And I can't show you now because we can't take him over to the next scene with us, but he needs to be able to collide with collidable map objects like we are right here. We can't walk through this, just like how he shouldn't be able to. And then we also need to work on collision detection for the entity and us, so that he actually damages us. We'll add giving us health, so that once he hits us, he kills us. And then we'll work on knocking him back when he collides with our spellcast entity. And we're in a successful spellcast. So there's a lot to do moving forward, but it's coming along. And yeah, so I think next episode will probably be... It depends. I might look up stenciling so that we can figure out how to stencil that log cabin. Or we might add some rudimentary AABB collision detection here and just prevent it so that he can't do this to us. So he can't just go on our face. We did change the render order there, which I kind of want to go back. We are rendering, at least in our scene... Oh god. We render our player. We want to render our player, then our entity. But now our entity's in our map. So... What? Okay. So yeah, we used to render our entity over our player, but now our player is in our map. So I kind of think... Yeah, we need our player outside here. So I guess this allows us... I don't know of a way to render our entity on top of our player at this point, because our player is different than all of our map rendering, because the map scrolls off but our player doesn't. So I'm not sure how to get... Oh gosh. Yeah, I'm not sure how to get the entities rendering on top of us at this point now. But maybe that's okay, because we're going to have hit detection, so it's going to hit us and then knock us back anyway, so we shouldn't be able to do that. But it might be cool if the particles of the gecko would go over us, like we're walking through the particles. So maybe there's something... Maybe there's some way we can do that. I really don't know how, though. I don't know how without... we would take the render, the entity render, out of our map and render it after. So like maybe we would say, not, you know, in our map, we don't render our entities exactly, but we need access to this adjacent offset X, which is part of our map. But if we want to render just our entity in our particle system over our player, maybe we can do something like this and just take out the render from our map, go back into our scene, and after our player, we're going to go ahead and cycle through all the entities of the current map. And this isn't self.row anymore. It is going to be the current map, I believe. Oh, crap, yeah. Let's see, because we've got a map. It's a self.map row, self.map column. Okay. And then we're going to render not at the self.adjacent offset X, but the maps adjacent offset X. Is that right? Because this would be... Oh, this is jacked. How do we screw this up? go to our scene. Let's go to where we're pulling out our map. And we don't want to render the entity at a self.adjacent offset x. It's actually our current map.adjacent offset x. So it's a current map dot adjacent offset x. Let's see if this is working. We just want to get the gecko and the particles for the gecko to render above us, which they are now doing. So I'm glad we can do that. And it, oh, fuck. Yeah, it takes it. Yeah, this is literally just what we fixed in the episode, was getting it out of the scene so that we can go ahead and scroll it off. So I don't think we can do this without compromising that stuff. So if we go back to our map, we turn this back on, we'll get it scrolling off, but we just don't get, you know, I really do think it would be nice, because like I want, if we walk through his particle trail, I want those particles to be on top of us, like we're breathing them in or something. So we'll have to see about separating that, because I think that would be a good thing to have. So let's add that to our notes here. We'll say how to render corruption particles over player. So we'll have to figure that out. Okay. The next episode we might do stenciling for log cabin, or we might do collision detection for player v entities, or collision detection for entities v map objects. We need to add player health. We need to add knockback upon hit, and then we need to also add flashy pain indicator. I don't know what to call it. You know, we get hit and then we need a flash red sort of deal. And then our game, and then we ultimately need spellcast to entity collision as well, so that we can actually hurt our enemies with our spellcasting. So it would be spellcast to entity collision detection. So we'll go here. Okay, so we've got a lot on our plate. This is one I do want to figure out. And this one too. I'm curious about this, because if you look at like Link's Awakening and stuff, the entities have like a kind of spot that they're spawning in. And then if you leave and come back, they're back in that neutral spot. Because I don't really like that those particles, by the time we walk back on, those particles are still there as if no time has passed, because as far as the game's concerned, no time has passed. We stopped updating, we come back on, then we resume updating. So we want to figure that out. I want to take a look at our get status here. We changed 5 files, and we take a look at our get diff. We got some new notes. In our entity class, we go ahead and have our particle system inside our entity class as opposed to our scene. We only update a particle system for a self-type gecko because we, as a player, don't want an entity system. Then we render our particle system at a adjacent X offset for the scrolling. We save an entity count within our map so that we know how many entities to update as well as particle systems to update. And then in our map render, this is actually commented out. No, it isn't. It is uncommented out, and this is how we're rendering our entity with scrolling off and scrolling back on. We give each of our map global declarations an empty entity table, and then we're manually assigning an entity into only map 1, 2 currently. So ideally, this kind of map, this global map declaration, I want to see if we can't figure out how to give us a function called reset map entities or whatever, and it takes in an argument of whatever map we're in, and then whatever map gets passed in, it knows which entities to spawn where at which default locations, so that we're not only doing this once in our game, but we do it anytime we walk onto a scene with an entity. It needs to load their default settings. I think we want to do that. That'll probably be a little further down the road because it's not like super necessary. But I'm sure we'll be able to figure that out and it won't be too tough. I'm just worried about those functions getting kind of bloated with all of the amount of entities we need to add for up to 100 screens in our game so far. So we'll see about that. But we'll call it a day, call it a night here, and we'll do and add everything to the staging area and commit with a message saying scroll entities off screen during transitions. And then our entities now in map class instead of scene class. All right, push that bad boy. We'll call it a night. Yeah, we'll be continuing on. We'll be chugging along. Thanks for watching, y'all. We will raid our buddy BO Problem because I told him I would raid him yesterday. So K-Tronics, if you want to hang around for 2 more minutes and raid BO Problem and just say what's up, I'm sure he'll appreciate it. He's a game dev like me who is he works in Godot, but he has about the same follower count as me, so we're like the same size game dev streamer on Twitch here. So I think it'd be fun to raid him. I hope you have a good night, K-Tronics. I hope you sleep well and have a good time throughout the week. So I'll catch you later, man. Take it easy.